So one day a mother was at the park playing with their baby when she realized that the baby dropped the pacifier. So she gets up and she asks her friend, "Do you mind watching the baby while I go to the car and get her a new pacifier?" Her friend says, "No, go ahead." So she comes back and she hands the baby the pacifier and tries to help her put it in the mouth. And it drops. The baby starts to cry and the mother just rolls her eyes and picks up her phone and starts to text somebody. Her friend, a little confused, asks her, "Aren't you going to pick up the baby to soothe her and to calm her down?" The mother looks at the baby and looks at her friend and says, "No, she needs to learn how to be without me. That's what my parents did. They always left me crying." Her friend looks at her and says, "The way you bonded and attached to your parents is the same way you will bond and attach to others, even if it hurts the people you love the most." You see, the problem is most people are not aware of what their attachment style is. And because we're not aware of what our attachment style is, we don't see how it affects our emotions and our relationships. And so we continue to create drama, stress out, live in anxiety, and disconnect from our partners or our relationship. And so we continue to go through the same arguments with our partners. We continue to have the same push-pull dynamics with our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our husband and wife. We continue to live in an emotional roller coaster in our relationships where we have good days and bad days, good weeks and bad weeks, good months and bad months. Have you ever gone through this before? And so because we don't understand what is happening, how our attachment styles are activated and deactivated, we continue to live in high levels of stress, high levels of anxiety, fears of abandonment, fears of rejection, disconnection, withdrawal from our partners. This is how we create and manifest the same childhood environment we grew up in, where we relive and recreate the same family dynamics that we grew up in. So let me tell you how I came to learn about attachment theory. You see, I've only had 2 long-term relationships in my life, and both relationships created the same childhood environment, childhood dynamics I had growing up with at home, where my parents were always arguing, my mom was always emotional and overreactive. You see, I'm attracted to women who have the same attachment style as my mom, the anxious attachment style. And when your partner has the same attachment style as one of your parents, that means they have the same behaviors and emotional reactions, which means they have a special ability to trigger you just like your parents did. Yay! Has that ever happened to you before where your partner resembles the attachment style, the emotions and behaviors as one of your parents and they trigger you very easily? You see, this is happening because your partner triggered certain childhood wounds that triggers and activates your attachment style. For some people, when your partner disconnects and withdraws, you get triggered by separation anxiety and you start to feel lonely, rejected, abandoned, anxious. And so your reaction is to become needy and get closer to your partner. And for others, when your partner gets too close to you or gets too needy, your attachment style gets triggered and you want to withdraw and disconnect. You want to have more alone time. You want to spend more time with your friends. You want a little break in the relationship. Has that ever happened to you before? So all these triggers and behaviors and attachment activations are all part of what we call attachment theory. Now, one of the first attachment theorists was John Bowlby, a British psychologist, and he believed that our attachment to our parents or our caretaker was the strongest indicator of how we would be in all our future relationships. Now, there was another psychologist in the 1970s, Mary Ainsworth, who conducted a famous study called The Strange Situation. It was a study that involved toddlers between the ages of 12 and 18 months left in a situation where they were left alone in a room with a stranger. Now, the process followed this. There's a parent and a child alone in the room. The child is playing, wandering the room, maybe playing with the toys. A stranger enters the room, engages the parent, and then engages the child, talking or trying to be playful. Then the parent leaves the room. At that point, the child, the baby, either shows anxiety or it doesn't. That means either the baby starts to cry or it doesn't. Then the parent returns into the room. Now, when the parent returns, if the child is crying, the parent is trying to reassure the child, trying to calm them down. And the child is either able to calm down or not. Now, the key distinction here is not whether the child got separation anxiety or it doesn't, or it didn't. The key distinction here is whether When the parent returns into the room and the child is crying and the parent is trying to give him reassurance, give her reassurance and trying to calm her down, is whether the baby is able to calm down or not. Now, based on these observations, Ainsworth concluded that there are three attachment styles in life. As an adult, well, through your whole life, is either secure attachment style, anxious attachment style, or the avoidant attachment style. Later, a couple researchers discovered another attachment style called the disorganized attachment style, where you're both. You're actually both anxious and avoidant in your style, your attachment type. So, to summarize the strange situation, the secure baby. The secure baby is distressed when the mom leaves the room. That means she does cry. She does have a little bit of separation anxiety. But when the mom returns to the room, she engages the mom. She comes and hugs the mom. She's happy to see the mom, and she's able to calm down. Right? That's the biggest. That's the biggest difference with all this. Now, the anxious attachment style does have distress, a little more aggressive than the rest. But when the mom enters the room, she's angry at the mom. She's angry at the mom for leaving, almost already has some resentment. This is where the temperament kicks in. And she's unable to calm down. So no matter what the mom does to calm her down, she just keeps on crying, and the mom's trying to calm her down, relax her, but unable to calm down, or it takes longer to calm down. That's the difference with the anxious attachment style. The next one is the avoidant. The avoidant baby or toddler is indifferent when the mom leaves. So generally speaking, doesn't even cry, doesn't even know that the mom leaves, or doesn't really even care. When the mom returns, the baby actually ignores the mom, avoids the mom. So there might be a little bit of resentment for the mom leaving, but the key indicator here is that the baby doesn't engage the mom, just keeps on playing or doing whatever the baby was doing. And the big one, obviously, there is no separation anxiety from the avoidant baby. The fourth is the disorganized attachment style. Now here, the baby's confused. The baby's confused because she's confused with fear and with love. She's scared of the mom, but she also craves that intimacy. She has a lot of mixed emotions. And depending on the trauma, she either completely shuts down or she overreacts in life situations. Does this make sense? You see, the real problem isn't necessarily what your partner does. The real problem is this. When your attachment style gets activated, you either feel anxious and needy or the complete opposite. You disconnect and detach from the relationship. And that causes you to behave a very specific way. And then that triggers your partner and causes them to react and behave a very specific way. All based on the way you bonded and attached to your parent or caretaker. Does that make sense? So let's think about that really quick. How has your attachment style affected your relationship? How has your anxiety and neediness caused drama in the relationship? How has your anxiety and neediness caused you to become more controlling, more angry, more desperate, affected the relationship, the tension and drama in the relationship? Or maybe you're the opposite. How do you push away from your partner? How has your withdrawal and disconnection created drama in the relationship? How has your disconnection and withdrawal made your partner feel anxious, lonely, abandoned, feelings of not good enough, feelings of created drama in the relationship because you keep pushing them away? So really quick, before we get into the lesson, go ahead and drop a comment below and let me know where you've been stuck. Where have you been stuck in your relationships throughout your life? How has your attachment bond with your parents or caretaker affected your relationship throughout your life? Go ahead and do that now while I set up. So what is attachment theory? Now, attachment is the attachment bond between the child and the parent or caretaker while the baby is growing up. Attachment theory is that the study of that attachment bond and in regard to all future romantic relationships that the adult will have. Now, one of the founders of attachment theory is John Bowlby. Bowlby's theories can be broken down into two fundamental concepts. Number one, a child's attachment history affects tremendously all future relationships as an adult. And number two, a child's attachment history actually creates and influences the development of the child's personality. In other words, our attachment bond with our parents is lays the foundation for how we create, build, and maintain all future relationships as an adult, specifically with our romantic partners. And number two, attachment, the way we attached or detached, the way we bonded with our parents, the way we received love or intimacy from our parents, actually is the foundation to our personality development. So when is attachment created? When does attachment impact us the most? Now, attachment is created mainly in our infancy stage, the first year of our life when we were babies. Now, researchers Schaefer and Emerson did a longitudinal study of 60 infants and were able to distinguish four key phases of attachment where we can see differences in attachment with the parent-child, parent-caretaker. The first one being the pre-attachment stage. So between 0 to 3 months, we don't see any kind of attachment preference from a baby. The baby cries, needs its food, and the caretaker or any caretaker can come and feed the baby and give him or her what she needs. The second one is called the indiscriminate attachment. Now, here's where we start to see some kind of attachment preference where the baby is able to distinguish the difference between its primary caretakers and strangers. And it actually shows preference to its primary caretakers. The third being discriminate attachment. This is between 7 to 11 months. The baby shows now signs of preference, mainly to one caretaker or one parent, and starts to show some kind of separation anxiety, stranger anxiety. You know, we've seen this before where someone tries to take a baby from its mom and it starts to cry instantly. Right, that's a baby already showing signs of attachment to a primary caretaker. And the fourth, we start to see a maturity in attachment where the baby or the toddler is able to have multiple attachment figures, right? They start to attach to both parents. They can attach to siblings, brothers and sisters, and the grandparents. Now, this is the key area of our attachment style. Whether you had healthy attachment, whether you had unhealthy attachment, whether there was trauma during this phase, this will impact the rest of your life. This will determine your behaviors, your personality, and your future behaviors, but mainly all your future romantic relationships with your partners will come from whether you had healthy or unhealthy attachment with one of your parents or caretakers. So think about that right now. Did you develop healthy attachment with one of your parents or caretakers? Was somebody there all the time, meeting your needs, right? There for emotional support, physical support, giving you food when you needed it, attunement, responding to your needs when you needed it. How has that impacted your relationships right now? Think about that. So how does attachment get created, right? Attachment development consists of four main characteristics. The first one is proximity, right? We generally attach to the people closest to us, one of our parents or our caretakers. The second is safety. Do we have somebody to run to in the moments where we have fear, a threat, a physical threat? Bowlby first came onto this when he would see primates running to their moms when they were scared. The baby primates, right? The baby monkeys would run to the mom when they were scared. Then he made this connection with mammals and then with human beings. The third is trust, right? The basis of trust is consistency. Was there somebody reliable there all the time? And the fourth is attunement, right? Attunement is a parent ability to pick up on the child's cues of some kind of emotional distress or physical distress and do something about it. right? This is the basis of whether or not you had secure attachment or insecure attachment. If none of these needs were being met, then you generally would have insecure attachment. If all of these needs were being met, then you had a secure attachment, right? A child needs their physical and emotional needs to be met, right? They need, if they're crying, somebody needs to attend to that, right? If they need affection, if they need support, these are the emotional and physical needs of a child. Misattunement, however, is when the parent doesn't pick up on the cues, when the child's nervous system is activated and there's nobody there to down-regulate the child, to calm them down so they can come back to homeostasis, to being normal and feeling safe, secure, right? Coming back to meeting these needs. So I'll give you an example so we can understand. So when the child's nervous system is activated, right? Take an example of a fork, a tuning fork, right? It's vibrating at a very low level. So this is a child who has an activated nervous system. Let's say some kind of fear, regular fears that a child goes through. They watch a scary movie. There's a stranger. There's a loud noise. They're hungry. They're crying. They got hurt. They fell. For whatever reason, the child has some kind of activation in their nervous system, and it's activated. So this is where attunement kicks in. The parent sees some kind of activation in the child, and whether or not the parent does something about it, whether or not the parent is around, whether or not the parent can pick up on those signals, determines how long the child's nervous system is activated, right? This is what will determine your emotional response for the rest of your life. So let's say something happens, right? The child gets hurt, or they feels rejection of some sort, and the child starts to cry. The parent picks up on it and calms down the baby, calms down the child, the toddler, is attuned to the needs, gives the emotional support, and is able to calm the baby down. Now, what we've done before, we don't have time to do this, is I've hit this several times several times. It's just an example, right? And it lasts about a good between 20 to 25 seconds where you can hear the sound. I'm pretty sure the mic is picking it up. And as soon as I bring in the larger object, the larger tuning fork, it actually cuts the time in half of when the noise is happening. It's the same thing with the child. If the child has no parent, no one to help attune their emotional needs, the child's nervous system stays activated longer, and in the brain that causes some kind of trauma in the brain, and it affects you physically long term with chronic health, and affects you emotionally with your emotional responses. Now, trauma occurs in that way. If you have a parent that has neglected you, or a parent that is not there, then you are left with multiple, think about your entire life, multiple times in your life where you were left with an activated nervous system where no one was there to help you down regulate, to help calm you down, to help soothe you. The other way of trauma is when you have a parent who has an activated system, an activated nervous system all the time. So then you're dealing with the parent who has an activated nervous system. And then you have a kid who has an activated nervous system. And now you have two bodies that are always activated, right? If you grew up in a house where both parents were always arguing, like at my house, you were always dealing with parents that were always activated. And so what does this do? What happens here is the parent is not down regulating the nervous system, is not attuned to the parent, because if the parent can't attune, can't down regulate, can't self-regulate, can't co-regulate their own emotional needs or emotions, then he can't perceive when the child has been activated. And not only that, he doesn't care when the child is activated. For whatever reason, we're not here to judge. I'm simply explaining to you emotional trauma, right? Growing up in a house of chaos, growing up in a house where everybody's always arguing, always yelling, right? You're left with two bodies, multiple bodies, parents, siblings that always have activated nervous systems, and nobody's there to help them down regulate. So you grow up the rest of your life thinking at a subconscious level that this is normal, right? It's normal to always be activated. It's normal to always be mad, always be jealous, always be activated, right? Always be reacting, always be triggered. Like these stay in your brain your entire life, right? You're always activated. You're always nervous, right? This causes long-term health issues. On top of that, your emotions never get controlled. You never learn how to down-regulate, and that affects all your relationships, right? In a social dynamic and even in your personal relationship with people you're with. So it's really easy to always be triggered, right? That's an activated nervous system. So these are just an example so you can understand what's happening with attachment trauma, why you are the way you are, why you chose the partner you're with, the problems that you have. We're going to get into going deeper right now of the types of attachment styles, but I'm trying to get you to grasp this attachment concept, right? How it all started, what's happening inside your nervous system. Okay, so think about that right now. When you were growing up, did you have somebody close to you, right? Did you have feel some kind of safety? Did you feel trust that there was somebody there that was consistently there for you? Did you have attunement, right? Just think about your parents right now. Are they attuned? Are they secure? Are they calmer? Are they mature? Or are your parents people that are always activated? Always activated, right? If both parents are always activated, then that kind of taught you how to always be activated, or never taught you how to co-regulate, how to self-regulate your emotions. So think about how this has affected you in your relationship right now. So let's talk about the attachment scale. Now, I didn't come up with this. We can give thanks to Brennan, Clark, and Schaefer for coming up with this attachment scale, so you can better understand where you can better start. You can start to see yourself and where you lie on this quadrant. Now, attachment styles have three fundamental characteristics. With your level of need for intimacy, your level of anxiety in a relationship, and your level of dependency or independence in a relationship, right? So your attachment styles, you're either secure or insecure in a relationship. And this is what's going on. This is why I said this is where you're going to figure out where you are and how that's affecting your relationship. So when we talk about this quadrant, we're talking about low avoidance, high avoidance, which is we're talking about low avoidance of intimacy, high avoidance of intimacy. And you have your levels of anxiety. You have low levels of anxiety in the relationship, or you have high levels of anxiety in the relationship. Now, the secure attachment style, you have low avoidance, which means you're okay with intimacy. You're okay with being close to your partner. You're okay with your partner being around you all the time, right? You have low avoidance. You're not trying to avoid intimacy or emotional closeness. And you also have low anxiety, right? You have low levels of anxiety. That means you're not always preoccupied mentally with the relationship, worried about your partner, right? Do they still love me? Are they going to reject me? Are they going to abandon me? Did I do something wrong, right? When you're always in your head about the relationship, then you have high levels of anxiety. A secure person doesn't think like that, right? Insecure person is going to need a lot of reassurance. They're always asking, do you love me? Do you love me? Are you okay? Are you okay? Did I do something wrong, right? And it's a constant thing. We're not talking about because your partner asked you once last month, right? We're talking about when your partner is constantly seeking reassurance, which is okay. We're not here to judge. We're here to explain what's going on inside of you so you can start to see the dynamics and how maybe you're causing the dynamics because of your emotional needs. So, secure person, low avoidance of intimacy, low levels of anxiety. The anxious person, this is where the insecure attachment style kicks in. The anxious attachment style has low avoidance, which means they're okay with intimacy. In fact, they crave it. They always want to be around their partner, right? They need that intimacy. They feel, the neediness comes from anxiety. They also have high levels of anxiety. They're always preoccupied with the relationship, right? Does he still love me, or she still love me? Are they going to reject me? Am I going to do something wrong? Are they okay with this, right? They're always preoccupied in their mind, right? High levels of anxiety about the relationship and their partner. If that is you, then you can already start to see yourself. You're probably more on the anxious on the anxious attachment style on the quadrant, right? The third is the avoidant. The avoidant has low levels of anxiety, right? They don't worry about the relationship, right? They low levels of anxiety. They're not preoccupied with the relationship, right? And they have high levels of avoidance, right? So when they get too intimate, when the partner gets too close, when the partner gets too needy, there's a system activation, and they feel like, okay, I need some alone time. I need to be with my friends. I need to be more independent, right? The avoidants tend to be more independent than all the other ones, right? They don't care about being close with their partner, pretty much. Then we get into the disorganized, is also the anxious and the avoidant, right? This is the disorganized attachment number 4. They have high levels of anxiety about the relationship, and they also have high levels of avoidance. So they don't like being too close, and they need some kind of attachment figure in their relationship. Now, what's happening with the avoidant is 2 parts of the brain have gotten activated, right? If you think about a child who has a mother that meets their needs, picked them up a couple times, gave them some love a couple times, but the mom is also abusive, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, right? So the mother is the attachment figure for the baby, right? That's where I go for my love, my intimacy. But the mother is also the point of fear. My mom abuses me, hits me, mistreats me, slaps me physically, emotionally, puts me down, narcissism 101. So now 2 parts of the brain are being activated, right? I don't know exactly where the attachment kicks into the brain, but the fear comes into the amygdala. So 2 parts of the brain are being activated, and now you're left with confusion, right? What do I do, right? There's a resistance, there's barriers, there's mental blockages, right? Mental defense mechanisms to prevent the child from being hurt more. So I don't know. I get anxious with my mom because I want my mom's love, and I also avoid it. I don't know. I don't know if this person can love me. I don't know. I'm confused. Right. That's where the disorganized attachment kicks in. So think about this. Where do you see yourself on this quadrant? Right. Are you more secure? Are you okay with being in not with your partner for hours or days? Or are you not? Are you always preoccupied? Are you always worried about the relationship? Are you always worried about your partner's reactions and whether or not they love you, right? Are you avoiding your partner? Do you feel your partner's neediness is overwhelming? Do you find yourself wanting to spend more time alone or taking breaks from the relationship and being with your friends, right? It's all a scale. Or even the 4th one, right? You're kind of all over the place with your partner, right? So think about that. Where do you see yourself? And how do you think this is affecting your relationship? So now let's go further with attachment styles. We're going to break down the characteristics of each attachment style so you can see, do these characters fit to who I am, and you can identify yourself with which attachment style you're most likely like. I'm sure with the quadrant, you're already there. You already kind of know what your attachment style is, but we're going to go through this so you can see more definitively where your main characteristics are, right? So the first being secure attachment, right? So in attachment styles, you either have a secure attachment styles or you have an insecure attachment styles, right? So they're 2 different groups, except the secure attachment is only one. The insecure is the other 3. So insecure attachment, you're comfortable with intimacy, right? You're comfortable with being emotionally close with your partner all the time, right? Physically and emotionally. You're okay with it. And you're also okay with not having to have that intimacy, right? You're secure with yourself, right? And there's interdependence, right? Both ways. So you're able to depend on your partner, ask them to do things, right? You're reliable for them, and they can rely on you. You see the value proposition there, where you can be dependent with each other. You're more of a team. You're interdependent, right? Not codependent, right? Codependency is when you expect your partner to fulfill all of your expectations and needs, right? Interdependence is more of a mature adult-like relationship, right? You're comfortable together and you're also comfortable being separate. You're okay. There's primarily trust. I'm okay with my partner being on vacation. I'm okay with my partner being gone months at a time for work. Whatever that may entail, it doesn't cause you to have any kind of mental anxiety or question the relationship, right? As a secure attached person, you trust your partner, right? You're able to forgive them fast and you're empathetic to their needs, right? You're emotionally mature. You're not always overreactive. You're not always triggered by every little thing your partner does, right? And you communicate like an adult. There's an adult communication. That means there's no guilt trips. There's no manipulation. There's no put downs. There's generally no condescending conversation with your partner. You communicate like an adult. As a parent, you are attuned to your child's needs, right? You pick up on their activated nervous system, and you're able to down-regulate their nervous system because you yourself are secure. You're emotionally mature. You've worked on yourself, or you're one of those lucky few who had two good, secure parents that taught you all of this, right? You feel secure with yourself, and you feel secure with love. Okay, let's get to the next one. So on the next attachment style, we're going to talk about the anxious attachment style. So now we're getting into the insecure attachment group, right? To reiterate, you're either secure or you're insecure in your attachment, right? Now we're going to start the insecure attachment styles. The anxious attachment style. So if this is you, then generally you feel insecure in your relationship. So just be honest with what I'm about to describe, because if this is you, then you know where to identify yourself and you know where you can work on. This is just explaining your attachment style and what's happening in your relationship. Because if you're not aware of this, this is why I do these videos. If your awareness is the beginning of change, beginning of changing your life. As soon as you become aware, now you're able to do something about it. With no awareness, there is no choice, right? You're just on autopilot, operating through life, reacting to external obstacles. As soon as you can identify to this, you can be like, oh, this is me. This is what's going on inside of me. Maybe it's not my partner, right? As soon as you start blaming your partner, you are now projecting your stuff onto your partner. You're blaming them for who you already are, right? Goes back to the triggers videos, right? For squeezing what's already inside you. So let's get into this so you can see where you can identify. And if this is you, you just be honest and we take it from there. Okay. So the anxious, we're going to describe characteristics of the anxious attachment style. So the first being that you generally feel insecure about your relationship. That means you feel not good enough in the relationship. You feel unworthy in the relationship. You have a lot of doubts. You have a lot of fears in the relationship, right? You're always preoccupied with the relationship. You're always overthinking. You're always worried about this other person. And what about this? And he's going to like this? And is she going to like this? And what about that? And what happens if she doesn't? Does she need me here? Like, it's a constant thing, right? You're preoccupied with the relationship. You're hypervigilant. Right? You're hypervigilant and sensitive to behaviors. So if your partner says something that maybe they're just expressing themselves or the situation, you feel rejected instantly, right? You're sensitive to what they do. If your partner is 30 minutes late or something, you take it personal, right? You take personal all your partner's behaviors, all right? You're generally more needy than all the attachment styles, right? You always want to be together. You want to be enmeshed, right? You're always asking your partner to go with you to the malls, to your parents, to the wherever it is you're going, right? You just want to be together all the time. That is a sign of being in the anxious attachment style, right? You need constant reassurance. You're always asking for your partner, do you love me? Do you love me? Are you okay? Do you love me? Are you okay? Right? You just want you want reassurance for the relationship security, right? Because you feel insecure. You understand? You need the reassurance because you yourself feel insecurity because of the way you were brought up when you were a baby. You're generally emotional all the time. You're defensive all the time, right? You're always giving attitude. You're generally angry. And again, these are all generalizations. Don't get defensive. Don't get triggered. I'm just describing general characteristics of when you're an anxious attached person, this is kind of describing you. And if you're honest, it's describing all of you. All right. So an anxious person is usually always defensive, right? All the time, all the time. My mom, my exes, like you would tell them something and they would get triggered and they would get defensive all the time, right? And you're merely suggesting. Sometimes it's very neutral, but you take everything personal because you're sensitive to behaviors and to comments or critiques, right? You're generally emotionally immature, right? And it has to do because your nervous system is always activated. Your nervous system gets activated very quickly, right? Right. So if your nervous system is always activated and your partner is the person closest to you, then you're going to blame your partner because your nervous system is always activated. But the reality is, whether that person is in your life or not, you generally are always activated. You know, living in fear, living in anxiety. But to an unconscious person, we're always blaming our partner for the way we feel. And if our nervous system gets activated when they're around, then it must be their fault, right? An unconscious person is always blaming external circumstances for how they feel, right? That's called projection. So you're moody, you're more drama, you create more drama, you're irrational in your emotional reactions or your way of thinking, right? So these were just describing characteristics, generally what's going on. So how many of you see yourself in this? Or your partner? How many of you does this describe your partner? Or your friends? Think about that, right? So now you're able to read people the way I could read people. I'm seeing all of this when I meet people. I already know where their attachment style is. And this says nothing. We're not here to judge anybody. It merely explains who they were growing up, right? So if anything, you can be more empathetic to them and their situation and their emotional reactions, right? And last, the anxious person is always projecting, right? They're projecting their unresolved issues, their childhood wounds, right? All their fears, all their insecurities, all their anger is coming out. As soon as you're blaming somebody, you are now projecting how you feel on the outside. I just explained what that is, right? So if your nervous system gets activated, you're mad, you're sad, you're being triggered, you're defensive, whatever it is. And generally when that happens, then you start blaming the person that caused that nervous system to be activated, right? As soon as you start blaming, you are now projecting that out onto the person. You are blaming them for how you feel, even though the way you attached had to do with the way you were raised, right? So it has nothing to do with your partner. Now we're getting a little bit too much into the personal development side. This video was more so you can identify. In the next series of videos, we're going to break down each of these attachment styles at a psychological and behavioral level so you can better understand, better grasp where you are on this and how you can improve, how you can heal, right? The brain is malleable. The brain can be changed if it wants to, okay? So we're simply opening your eyes. We're putting light in a dark room, okay? Deepak Chopra told me once, 98% of this planet is walking around unconscious. I mean, when you're unconscious, you're on autopilot. When you're on autopilot, you're walking around in the dark, reacting to everything that happens to you, right? Reacting to external circumstances, to external people, external situations, blaming them for how you feel, right? And last, as a parent, if you are a very anxious person or you're unconscious, then you really have no attunement, right? So when your child gets activated, you generally can't perceive it because you yourself are always activated, right? And if you're always activated as well, then and nobody's around, then you are projecting that onto your child. It must be your child's fault why they're mad, right? Why they spilled the milk, why they spilled the milk, why they did this, why they're getting bad grades. It's their fault that you're getting activated, that you're mad, that you're getting defensive, that you're giving attitude, that you're always angry, right? And so this is what causes generational trauma, right? We don't heal ourselves and we grow up, we live, we become accustomed to, it becomes normalized to always be activated, and we blame our partners for the activation. And when we have little mini-me's, we blame them for our activations, right? So if you're always activated, if you don't know how to self-regulate, how to down-regulate your nervous system, how can you teach a little guy how to do it, right? You can't. And so if you can't learn how to do it, you raise little babies, little kids to be the same style you are, right? That is generational trauma. So, how many of you guys can identify yourself with this? How many of you guys can identify your partner as this? Which one of your parents was like this or caretaker? And how is this affecting your relationship right now? How are you blaming them for what's your style, for what's already inside you? So now let's talk about the avoidant attachment style, right? So if you're an avoidant, you're generally emotionally distant, right? You're emotionally disconnected, right? You push away from intimacy. So when your partner gets too close, when your partner gets too needy, you feel overwhelmed. You feel enmeshed. You feel like you need to take a break from the relationship, right? You always want space, right? And this is a scale. It's not black and white. You know, there's mediums. Man. Someone once told me that they can handle when their partner spends the night 1 or 2 days, but after that, they want some space from the partner, right? Those are slight characteristics of an avoidant attachment person, right? They prefer autonomy, right? Independence. They don't want them partners to depend on themselves, and they don't want to depend on their partner. They want to generally feel more independent in the relationship, right? They avoid conflict and emotional conversations, right? They're emotionally disconnected in the relationship, but they're also emotionally disconnected with themselves. That is their trauma, right? So they don't want to talk about tough conversations, right? They avoid those conversations, right? And generally, they're relaxed, they're calm, and they're disconnected. You know, I'm sure you've met those kind of people that are generally always calm, especially in emotional situations, because they're not emotionally reactive, right? They, unlike the anxious style, they don't always have highly activated nervous systems, right? Their trauma was that their brain learned how to shut down and disconnect, right? And as a parent, they're emotionally unavailable, right? They're detached and disengaged with their kids. So maybe they don't know how to help their kids regulate their nervous system, right? Because they're not triggered by it. So, or they're not securely attached because they really don't care about what's going on. So they can handle baby crying, you know, for hours and hours at a time. Right? I'm just exaggerating what's going on, but generally, generally this describes what it means to be an avoidant. So is this you? Does this describe you? Do you always want space from your relationship? Is this your partner? Right? Does this describe your partner? Are they always distant? Do they always want to be there with their friends? Do they want to take breaks from being with you all the time? Which one of your parents or caretakers was like this? Right? Emotionally distant, emotionally disconnected. And they were okay with it. Right? They didn't feel guilty about it. It's just who they were. Right? Well, think about this. If this is you, how has this affected your relationship? So now let's talk about the disorganized attachment style, the anxious attachment style. So if you remember from the disorganized attachment style, this is where the baby, the toddler, the kid, the adult is confused, right? Because they have both systems activated, the attachment system in their psyche, and they have the fear, the emotional reactive system in their psyche. They get activated at the same time, so they're in a confused state on how to react, right? Now, when we talk about these characteristics, they're very extreme, right? So we're not here to diagnose somebody with what they have. Generally, in the extreme cases, these are people more with extreme mental disorders or extreme emotional unregulated emotions. Right? We're just describing this. There can be, and it's on a scale. There can be low levels and there can be high levels. This is generally the extreme narcissism right here. The people that have no empathy. On the other side, the anxious attachment style, the one we talked about right now, is generally the one that describes narcissism, right? And again, we're not here to diagnose anybody. We're just identifying patterns, right? So if you're a disorganized attachment style, then you have a lot of unresolved emotions and traumas. Now, let's be clear. All the insecure attachment styles have unresolved emotions and traumas, right? This is more in the extreme case on why they're emotionally super reactive, right? They push away intimacy. They can't get too close because they have zero trust barriers, zero trust attachments. Sorry. So when they have trust issues with people. So when people get too close, maybe they feel like, oh, what do you want? This person's after me for something, right? That's where their mind goes. They're defensive, they're argumentative, they tend to rage, right? And we're talking about extreme cases here, right? They're unable to self-regulate. So these people, when they get triggered, right, there's nothing that's going to regulate them, right? They have zero emotional self-control, right? They're unable to self-regulate. They have high levels of anxiety, of depression, of PTSD, right? They're aggressive, they're vengeful, they're easily triggered. So we're just describing the extreme cases. I mean, there could be mild cases of this. So don't be too quick to identify yourself as this. You could have mild variations of this. If you do, you might want to seek psychological help. But we're here again just to shine a light on where on the scale you may be. If you suffer from extreme physical or emotional abuse as a parent, if this is you, you're very emotionally abusive, you're very dysfunctional in your relationship, you always have a love-hate relationship with your child, with your friends, with your parents, right? Generally speaking, this personality is very dysfunctional, right? So I hope it's not you. If it describes you, then it's just awareness that it could be time to take a step forward into getting some help. I gotta ask, does this describe your partner? Does this describe you? Does this describe one of your parents? How has this affected your relationship? So just to be clear, we do go through attachment cycles in our life. Just because you had an insecure attachment style growing up doesn't mean you're going to have insecure attachment as an adult, right? There's a lot of time that passed by. You could have done a lot of personal work. You could have worked yourself. You could have gone through a lot of therapy. You could have increased your self-esteem, your self-confidence. You could have had great relationships and a lot of secure relationships growing up, that it took you from being insecure to secure about your relationships and about yourself, right? So think of it like this: throughout your life, you will cycle around being in insecure relationships and being secure in relationships, right? So you could have insecurity. You could be insecurely attached to a partner, and then on the next relationship, you feel secure in your relationship, right? So there is hope, right? The brain is malleable, right? That's called neuroplasticity. The brain is capable of changing, healing, adapting, modifying itself, its behavior to its environment, right? So I don't want you to think just because you identified yourself with one of them that's it, you're screwed for the rest of your life, because you're not. Okay, so as long as you do the work, you go on your healing journey, it's possible to move from insecurity to security. Does that make sense? So this video will be the overview of the 4 attachment styles will be the beginning of the next probably 4 videos, the next series of attachment videos, right? So in the next series, we're gonna break down each of the attachment styles, right? We're gonna do one video on the anxious style, we're gonna do one video on the secure style, one video on the avoidant style, and one video on the disorganized style, right? We're going to talk about the activation and deactivation strategies we do together in a couple, right? How this triggers each other in a relationship. And we're going to talk about attachment clashes, right? Whether or not you're with the right partner, that doesn't mean it can't be changed, right? So the brain can change if it wants to, right? So get ready, because here it comes. Okay, this is what I want you guys to do for homework, right? First thing is watch this video again, right? I want you to write down the traits. Pick or identify your style and write down the traits that you have, right? That'll help lock in which of the styles you represent the most, right? And then I want you to identify your partner, right? Which of these styles, write down the traits your partner has, see which one matches up to the attachment styles. And last, I want you to journal how your style is affecting the relationship, right? Not theirs. It's never about them. It's about you. How is your attachment style affecting your relationship? Listen, everyone needs to learn this, either right now by choice or later in life. by force. So if you know someone that needs to watch this, pay it forward. Do them a favor and share this video with them today. So think about that right now. Who do you know that could use this information, that needs this information, that might help, might affect their life with this video? Who do you know that could use this video right now? Listen, if you saw some traits that you didn't like, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, right? We gotta have self-compassion. This video was created just so you can identify which attachment style that you have, right? So if you're still watching this video, give yourself some credit. 90% of the people out there don't do anything about changing their life. So I respect you. I honor you for making it all the way to the end and continuing your journey of healing and doing the work. We all deserve to be happy in life. If you're human, if you're breathing, then you deserve to be happy in life. You deserve to be loved as well. You deserve to have the life that you want to have. But change takes time. Change takes work. You can't expect your life to change without any kind of effort, right? That reality just doesn't exist. So hang in there. Keep going. Keep making progress. Believe in yourself. I believe in you. Can you do that for me? Now, just visualize, imagine yourself in 6 months having the life, having the relationship that you want to have because you finally did the work you needed to do to change your life today, right? Are you ready for a breakthrough in your life? Are you willing to put in the work to get that breakthrough in life? So make sure you take action as soon as this video ends and implement everything we talked about here today. So here's the power phrase I want you to say with me today. I love and accept myself fully. I love and accept myself fully. Say that with me a few times. I love and accept myself fully. I love and accept myself fully. So I want you to say this affirmation 10 times every day before you go to sleep and right when you wake up. Can you do that for me? Everyone knows that mastery is achieved by daily practice and discipline. However, by having a deeper level of an understanding of why you do what you do allows you to reach a whole new level of self-mastery in your life. If you're ready to reach that next level, then text the word FREEMC to the number below so I could text you back a free link to our masterclass. So one more time, that's text the word FREEMC to the number below so I could text you back that download link. And if you're not in the US or Canada, go ahead and click on the link below this video to get access to the masterclass as well. Remember, if you like this video, then subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified when we release a new mastery video. And if you want my free life tips and strategies, then go ahead and follow me at the new social media accounts below so that you can get access to those immediately. How does that sound? That's it for today. Make sure you finish watching all 7 masterclass intro videos so that you understand how your mind works and how to stop it from sabotaging you in life. Thank you for watching. Namaste. That's the beat right there. Hey guys, thanks for staying until the end. Make sure you follow me at the Instagram below to get my free daily life strategies. Click on the subscribe button right there. Make sure you finish watching the Masterclass series over here. And if you're ready for the Masterclass today, go ahead and text me at the number below so I can text you back that download link. Are you ready for a breakthrough? Okay, let's get it.